Imagine a high-rise office building where the tenants are furious. The complaints are pouring in. The elevator is simply too slow, and people are threatening to break their leases. If you hand this problem to a traditional engineer, they will look for a physical solution. They'll propose upgrading the motor, swap out the heavy cable systems, and reprogram the routing software. It is a highly logical fix that will cost the building owners millions of dollars. But an observant property manager realizes the speed of the car isn't the actual issue. The boredom of the passengers is. By installing a cheap mirror next to the elevator banks, people suddenly have something to look at. They check their hair, adjust their ties, and the wait time complaints drop to zero. The advertising executive Rory Sutherland often uses this exact scenario to illustrate a core rule of the modern economy. There are two ways to create value. You can spend a fortune making a desirable thing, or you can spend a fraction of that making an existing thing desirable. This distinction matters immensely in our modern economy. As artificial intelligence models rapidly consume basic logic, rote math, and standard coding tasks, the market premium on purely mechanical problem-solving is dropping. To thrive in an automated future, we have to stop acting like linear calculators. We have to become systems thinkers, architects who look past the obvious physical constraints to hack the invisible psychological, technical, and financial rules that actually govern our world. In the late 18th century, James Watt faced a massive bottleneck. He had engineered a brilliant, highly efficient steam engine, but he couldn't get traditional businessmen to buy it. His target demographic consisted of rugged coal mine owners. They didn't know or care about thermodynamics, cylinder pressure, or rotational velocity. They had flooded mines, and they needed the water pumped out. So Watt bypassed the engineering entirely and invented a psychological metric. As this diagram illustrates, he translated abstract physics into a language the mine owners already spoke, visually comparing his engine to a herd of horses. He called it horsepower. He told buyers exactly how many horses they could fire. Looking at the data, Watt contrasted the flat cost of his steam engine with the exorbitant ongoing cost of feeding, housing, and resting 75 horses every day. 2 centuries later, Uber applied this exact same psychological framing. When they launched, they didn't deploy vehicles that drove physically faster than standard taxis. Instead, they built a map interface that gave riders a sense of control, entirely eliminating the friction and anxiety of waiting on an empty curb. Altering human perception and mitigating anxiety is almost always cheaper, faster, and more profitable than trying to bend physical reality. You see a similar pattern when you look at high-level tech operations. In 1995, NVIDIA founder Jensen Huang realized the 3D graphics algorithm his entire hardware startup was betting on simply didn't work. Instead of burning through his remaining cash trying to force bad math to function, he walked into a bookstore, bought textbooks on standard rendering pipelines, and rebuilt the company's entire hardware strategy. That pivot laid the groundwork for the universal function approximators that power today's AI boom. But Huang didn't stop at hacking his algorithms. He also completely rewired his own corporate structure, popularizing a management style known today as founder mode. He actively rejects standard Fortune 500 management advice. Rather than establishing deep, slow-moving hierarchies, Huang keeps dozens of direct reports so information flows rapidly. He treats his organization like a custom-built Formula One car, designed specifically around his own operational quirks rather than a generic business template. The hardware and code you ship are only half the battle. You have to ruthlessly optimize the organizational environment in which that product is built. When media founder Brandon Harris sold his company, the press release celebrated a massive $54 million exit. On paper, it was the ultimate startup dream. The reality was a toxic earnout structure. His payout was tied directly to strict revenue targets, but the acquiring company began pulling his best employees to work on other projects. He was trapped in a high-stress cycle of misaligned incentives, watching his asset get stripped. Harris realized the deal was designed against him, so he slashed his own payout. He negotiated an early exit, deliberately walking away with $12 million to escape the corporate gridlock and buy back his own mental health. Preserving that wealth requires its own set of maneuvers. This flowchart breaks down his next strategy. Instead of liquidating cash and taking a massive capital gains tax hit, the standard path on the left, Harris borrows against his stock, taking the path on the right. He pulls a $3 million line of credit at roughly a 5% interest rate to fund his lifestyle. As we see here, by keeping his core equity untouched, his investments compound at a rate that vastly outpaces the slow drain of the interest fee. Harris's maneuvering reveals that true leverage involves rejecting default corporate systems to prioritize your own wealth preservation and mental health. James Watt faced the rigid laws of physics. Jensen Huang faced a broken technological premise. Brandon Harris faced a standard, punitive tax code. They all stared down a locked front door. Their outlier success was achieved by climbing through a side window. When their immediate domain offered no viable path, they stepped back and leveraged an entirely different system to bypass the problem. As this generated simulation of an automated future shows, we are quickly approaching the reality Jensen Huang warned us about. The highly logical, simple, and repetitive tasks are being outsourced to machines. Your ultimate professional value will no longer be measured by how well you execute rote instructions. It will be measured by your ability to diagnose the complex web connecting human behavior to technology and orchestrate those pieces in new ways. The next time you face a rigid, seemingly impossible obstacle, don't just push harder against the locked door. Trace the rules of the system, step back, and ask yourself, how hard can it be to rewire this?